pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next agenda item is roll call, please.
Okay, could we let Jessica do it?
Yes.
Just want to explain, Jessica's my newest deputy clerk, and we're going to let her do a little bit of this tonight so she can learn how to do it in case I'm absent one day. That's going to be part of her duty, so she's winging it tonight. So if you would give us a roll call, please.
Hinckley?
Here.
McGuire?
Here.
Gajewski?
Here.
Binkowski?
Here.
Carrasco?
Here?
Reed?
Here.
And Byer.
Here. Thank you. Agenda modifications, additions.
We have one potential additional item with the board's indulgence. That would be an operating agreement with the Little League, which we received today.
Okay. Put that under other. And even though we already have a number 4 under other, we're gonna move that one. So that's a second adjustment here. The bank authorization form business is, really has to be a resolution. So we're gonna move that, if it's okay with the board, up to resolutions and ordinances as the second resolution for tonight. And the Little League item that Bob just mentioned will be the new number 4. Anything else? Okay. Next item is public comment. Anybody have any cards been submitted? Okay. 4 minutes to speak, and we would ask you to step up to the podium, please. Okay.
This would be Pat Young, who would like to talk about administrative fees for special assessment districts.
Okay.
My name is Pat Young. I'm a resident of Oscoda living on Van Etten Lake. I've done some mulling of my own and would like to see if we can clear up some misconceptions that you, the Township Board, may be operating under. Van Etten is a public lake. Its lake association is a group of lake and lake access owners who devote their efforts to keeping the lake healthy and navigable at all times. Testing is done for water clarity as well as for other factors that may cause concern for water quality. Over 10 years ago, the infiltration of Eurasian water milfoil was discovered in Van Etten Lake, brought in on watercraft that had been in contact with other infested lakes and ponds. At the urging of Vela, the Special Assessment District was created to try to battle this fast-spreading invasive species. We, the property owners, did not pursue this weed control plan as a singular and selfish benefit for ourselves, as the board's remarks seem to imply. The health and welfare of an entire body of water was at stake. We put ourselves on the front lines to deal with it. Without that effort, Van Etten would be no better than a reeking swamp. Just what benefit do we, as lake residents, reap that others do not? Absolutely nothing. The additional service that is specific and benefits a set group of people? No, again. The sad benefits the entire public who use and enjoy Van Etten, a public lake that is supported and maintained solely through lake resident assessments. This township does not contribute a fair share to assist with keeping this public body of water healthy and navigable. Even the boat launch fees at Ratliff Park are general funded and not put back into supporting the lake. The launch fees imposed on residents are different than public day use. It has, or at least had in the past, cost us $5 to put a boat in, and later in the season, $5 to take our boats out. I guess us renegade sad people just can't be trusted to pay up front. Your thoughts of imposing an administration fee and or any future interest fees on the special assessment process for our lake is just one insult too many. The township and public is already getting a huge bang for the buck. And by the way, the statement made in the Oscoda Press article, they're basically borrowing our money. I don't think so. It's not your money, it's mine. Let's not confuse who pays the bills. I don't think you understand that Van Etten is a vital part of this town, township, and county with so many recreational opportunities that have been enjoyed by the thousands who take advantage of it. We are not a privileged few who treat it as a private paradise. We're better than that. With the exception of one board member, I don't recall seeing any board or staff members attending the Lake Association meetings. If you had, you might better understand what lake stewardship is about. If you have attended, what is it that you don't get? We will continue to contribute to the ongoing effort to keep Van Etten a healthy lake for all. What will your contribution be? Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Some worthwhile comments. One thing that you indicated regarding the money that, I think the comment about our money, the general fund township money being spent, that could have been made. I don't recall exactly when or who, it doesn't matter, but.
I've got the article.
Oh, I didn't say it wasn't made.
Oh, no.
No, I didn't say it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying I don't know what it was referring to or who said it or when, and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Really, those specifics, but I think, I'm guessing when we set up street assessments, the county comes in and does the paving, or they lease it out, and we have to pay right away, you know, and that maybe is what the person was talking about, that we have to pay that right away. The street is paved, the county says, pay up, because they gotta pay the paving company and so forth, and so our money goes out instantly, and we talk about sometimes in a special assessment for a street is going out 2 years. We've even thought about 3, but right now it's at 2. So it takes us a while to get our, and I hate that word, it's all of our money, but it's general fund money. And so it fits that a little better than. So.
That's clarification.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And but like I said, my point is that I live on a public lake.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I benefit. I do benefit because I live on a lake.
Hmm.
But that's not why there is a special assessment for my own personal satisfaction or use or benefit. It's a public lake and we're supporting it.
Yeah.
All by ourselves. And that's a big load to carry. So that was the point I was trying to
Well-
make.
The township does pay for a portion of the special assessment, though.
How many units? 2.
I have to look, I don't know right off the top of my
I believe I
head.
had checked on that before. Correct me or call me on if I'm wrong. 2 units is equal to about $150.
But you also benefit because Ann does her research and does work with VILA and that type of thing. You don't get charged for that. Or the attorney fees, when they have to drop the paperwork and stuff like that, we don't pass those costs on.
Of course not. And that's,
Well, and
it should
And
say
it's-
status quo.
but that's part of ours, yeah, that's part of our contribution though.
Exactly. And I just don't think that we should be assessed, a fee, an administration fee to pay that back. If that's your contribution. And that was my point. Make that your contribution to the lake.
No, she's just trying to say that there's more contribution from the township government than just the taxes that we
Right.
pay, these other services and stuff. But again, I repeat that you had some decent things to think about when we
Thank
finally
you.
make a decision. So,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Yes, Eric Alsance, representing the Oscoda Area School District.
All's house.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I've been called worse today.
So,
Yeah, I'm Eric Alshouse. I'm the principal of Richardson Elementary School. I'm here representing school. Mr. Moore, the superintendent, he's at his own board meeting tonight, so he couldn't be here. But we're here to say thank you for 2 reasons. One is this February, probably most of you know, at Richardson Elementary School, we had a boiler go down. We had 18 classrooms where their boilers broke. Caused quite a flood at times, and we were forced to close school for a few days. When the Oscoda Buildings and Grounds Department heard about it, first thing they did, anything we can do to help, just let us know. And it was great, because we took them up on their word about it a little later, and they came out and they helped put some safeguards in place so this wouldn't happen again. When the insurance company came through, they said this is probably the worst school flood, accident that they have seen in 6-7 years. It was that bad. And with us having such a small maintenance staff, it was very nice to know that they had our backs. They were willing to come out, drop what they're doing, and help us in a time of need like that. This evening at our board meeting, they'll be receiving a hand-in-hand award. It's something we give out to the community members and organizations that go above and beyond, and they are definitely one. The other thank you we'd like to give is the Oscoda Township Police Department. Unfortunately, this year we've called on them numerous times to come out and help us. We had some domestic violence that came into the schools, some threats, some physical assaults that occurred, and they have been very prompt and professional at everything they do. We're currently working in a national grant with other states around the country in Michigan, and we're at a conference call and we explained what the township's been doing for us, and the schools were amazed. And I guess too often we take it for granted. So that's why we wanted to make sure we took the time to come in and say thank you all for your help and your support. It's definitely a hard job, and it makes it a little easier knowing that you're with us in this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Anybody else want to say nice things? That's it?
That is it.
Okay, and we do have a second comment period at the end where cards are not requested or required, so, okay. Again, thank you to the two speakers. Next, we move on to the consent agenda, the minutes of the March 23rd meeting. Is anyone, anything in the minutes that needs to be tweaked or missing, anything? Hearing nothing, then I guess we can move on. Payment of bills, $269,296.31. Quite a bit. You know, we have had 3 weeks since our last meeting. This happens a few times a year where there's 3 weeks instead of the usual 2 weeks. Some people think we have meetings every other Monday. It isn't. It's the second Monday and the fourth, and that leaves a gap sometimes. So anyway, kind of a healthy bill payment over the 3 weeks. Anybody have a question regarding the $269,296.31? If not, we will move on to the third part of our consent agenda, which is the superintendent has some informational items, one on a car repair. Is there anyone that has a question on that? That was not an easy decision to make, but we did make it. Hopefully the right decision. And number two, the former Wordsmith Air Force Base storm sewer issue that we've had this winter is taken care of. We don't know the final cost on that. Is that right, Bob?
Correct.
Because our authorization to the Satcoiac Company of Saginaw or Bay City was not more than $8,000, so we don't know how close they came to that. But quite a mass of roots had to be pulled out with a backhoe.
And a massive chain.
Yeah.
Huge
Chains
chain.
and backhoes. It was a spooky looking thing that came out of there.
Yeah, good horror movie.
Yeah.
What repair work was done in that area?
Simply root removal at this point.
No piping
No liners or anything.
replacement or?
Not at this point. That particular area is where they got the auger hung up before, the contractor. And as I understand it, there was already a section of the pipe cut off the top or nearby there. So they basically made a cap, cut through the pipe, extracted the auger, and replaced the cap. There has been some discussion with the contractor about a process of filling the joints only that we're going to pursue. And expect to be reporting more on that. But in terms of on-site repair at that point,
So they didn't do any sealing of that seam?
they did not. They did televise, So we've got a pretty good idea of where the problems were, and presumably they can put together some kind of an estimate for treatment.
They were basically hired to clear the weeds out, right? I mean, we didn't task them with much more than that.
Correct.
Yeah, because our guys
It's
dug
not
the
that
hole.
they just decided not to do it and hit the road or something like that. So,
Yeah.
okay. Did we keep that massive weeds, you know? We could
I'm doubtful.
make a statue somewhere. It looked like something out of a horror movie. It was just, I expected to see eyes underneath.
Yeah.
Okay, third item, Fleece and Vandenbrink, integrated controls invoice. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, then I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, that is moved by Ms. Carrasco with support from Mr. Weed. Roll call, please.
Sorry.
That's you.
Gajewski,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Weed,
Yes.
Carrasco,
Yes.
Binkowski,
Yes.
Hinckley,
Yes.
and Byer.
Yes. Motion is passed. Okay, we move into the action item segment of the superintendent's report, and 4 or 5 items coming up here. And first one is a engineering proposal for pump station number 25.
Yes. For some time, we've talked about the issues present at Pump Station 25 relating to the corrosive gas that essentially exhausts there and passes through. So we're talking about both the odor and the corrosion issues. In order to address that, we began dialogue with Spicer Engineering, and they've provided a proposal which is attached to my report and dated March 16th. They've done some preliminary investigation. It appears as though the best approach to resolving the corrosion issue is going to be installing one of 2 different liner products. They haven't gotten far enough to give us definite feedback on that, or replacing the wet well itself with a product that's more corrosion resistant, although the cost is likely to make that less than ideal. The proposal that they've given us would involve assessing the options, consulting with us, developing bid specifications, and overseeing completion of the work. The cost is to be considered and not to exceed $23,900 unless there are extenuating circumstances. To put that in perspective, we have been carrying in the capital improvement budget for a few years at least a total appropriation of $40,000. So the engineering is more than we might have anticipated initially. The reason I'm told, a big part of that reason is that they are going to have to develop a strategy and implement a bypass. There's not plumbing in that lift station to accommodate a bypass, so they're going to have to develop a solution that would allow the work to be accomplished. Some good news here is that we would likely be able to recover about $2,000 through the SAW grant, assuming that we're awarded funding from that program. And I should make it clear that this proposal addresses only the wet wells in question. It does not address the odor or the potential for corrosion issues in the force main coming from lift station number 4. I spoke with the engineer about that, and they've asked for some of the plans that were originally developed when this system was constructed, the basis of design that was submitted with the permit materials to DEQ, and they'll be getting back to us on that. I just want to make it clear that that's a separate and distinct issue, but one that I think we should be pursuing. And the question then becomes, ultimately, depending on the feedback we get from the engineer, do we focus on the odor only, or do we try and get at the root of the problem, meaning the corrosive gas, if in fact that's determined to be necessary? It was mentioned that there may be blow-off valves, there may be potential for putting a new lift station, additional lift stations, those types of things to mitigate that problem. So, but that's a separate and distinct issue from this discussion.
And this amount that we're talking about, $23,900 is just for engineering,
Correct.
not the actual work. So, this is something we've talked about before, as Bob indicates in his March 16th. Sometime we talked about this. And Matt, jump in anytime you feel like this. You've indicated years ago, I remember that, even where you lived as a kid.
Yeah, there's always been an odor associated with the wastewater plant. I mean, just always was. When I worked there were mornings it was quite strong when you drove in out there, so.
This hydrogen sulfide, is this the same as what in Eric's school science classes or high school they call rotten egg gas? Or is it
Yeah,
sewage smell?
it would be the rotten egg. The sulfide would be the rotten egg, yeah.
Well, Bob, in our discussion, you indicated we are already doing some superficial things to mediate the odors, but there are now better things, but those are still, right, more effective things.
It's believed that, yeah, we could more effectively treat those odors. We bought a charcoal filter device many years ago. It helped, but it certainly hasn't eliminated the problem. So the next step, if we were to move forward with this, and if we do, I would suggest that it'll be subject to execution of a contract agreement. The next step would then be talking about whether we should address the odor solely or try and go again after the root cause,
Right.
and maybe deal with that.
Do you wanna pay for a patch, or do you wanna go after the cause?
If that's feasible, yeah.
The odor that comes from a wastewater treatment plant isn't necessarily the sulfide issue. And the only way to take care of that is to cover your treatment tanks. But this lift station is a significant key to the whole system operation. And to treat only the odor or to only take care of a lining in it does not resolve the major issue, which is the degradation of the pipes because of the corrosion from the gas. And that is gonna become a huge problem later on, far worse than weeds in a storm sewer, a school flooding, or weed control in a van, any of that. And I think that it needs to be taken care of right the first time, which is a replacement of the well, an adequate backup system for it, and to resolve the issue of the gas forming in the sewer lines.
How about Bob mentioned, this is quite a distance to go from lift station number 4, which I believe is behind the old Speedy Printing, is that right?
Mhm.
And then it goes all the way out to lift station number 25, which is way out on the base. I think I heard you say that possibly one solution would be an additional lift station somewhere in between that distance?
That was mentioned, or some type of air exchange devices.
Well, that's what we're paying engineering for, right?
Well, that's just what I was gonna say, is that engineering gonna tell us what's the best option? If we need to replace the pipes, whether we need to put aeration in, whether we need to put another lift station. That's what we're gonna pay with that almost $24,000 then, right? Or
Well, no, this is solely on the issue at the well.
yikes.
And that's what I wanted to make clear, is we will need further engineering analysis on the larger issue.
But it needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, before we move on or vote on this, I would just mention, and I don't mean to be sarcastic or biting at all, but I know from time to time, the township government gets zinged a little bit by people that live in the base area or around it, that we don't spend any money on the base. We don't put any money into the former base. And here we're talking about just under $24,000 just for engineering to help this odor problem. And there'll be a lot more after that. And we talked a bit about the weed removal before. That could be $7,000 or $8,000 in that, you know. And then what did we pay for the auger that really didn't work so well?
Right around $3,500.
$3,500,
Yeah.
okay. So we are spending some money on the base. Maybe, you know, maybe it isn't pretty things that show up real obviously, but we are spending some money, so.
I'd like to say that I'm calling this an odor problem is very inaccurate statement. This is a corrosion problem, and a symptom of that is the odor.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so at the end of the day here, or at the end of Bob's report on this topic, do we wish to go ahead with the Spicer Engineering relative to Pump Station 25? Yes, no?
So
Motion?
moved.
Okay.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Weed with support from Mr. Hinckley that we do accept the proposal from Spicer Engineering relative to their investigation of the problems with pump station number 25, and not to exceed $23,900. So, any further discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Binkowski,
Yes.
Weed,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Hinckley,
Yes.
Gieske,
Yes.
Carrasco,
Yes?
and Meyer.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, second item relates to the work session that we had recently.
Yes, number of follow-up items. First is consideration of scheduling an additional work session. We had several board members who needed to leave early, and the consensus of those remaining was that we should adjourn the meeting and consider a third and presumably final work session. In looking at dates, I thought maybe as soon as this Wednesday or Thursday, but certainly that's at the board's discretion. Bottom line, asking for your consideration and identifying a date and time for our next work session.
Well, to start off, I cannot be here for a work session on the 15th of April, so
I can't be here for the 16th.
can't be here the 16th.
Yeah, that's solved.
Anybody else want to dive in here?
I can't be here the 15th either.
Thank you for the camouflage.
I might have a tough time with the 16th, but
Yeah,
we
I'm not
kind of
sure.
talked.
Yeah.
Well, John won't be here, so we'll be alone, so.
If we bump to the next week, I can't be here the 20th or the 23rd.
I won't be here next week.
At all.
I can't be here the 21st.
Boy, I'm doing something wrong. I'm here all the time.
28th, 29th?
Can't do it on the 29th. This room is booked the whole day, unless
What
we
day
have it
is
somewhere
that?
else.
Are we at a Wednesday at that point?
Tuesday
Yeah.
and Wednesday?
I know Wednesday of that week, well, I couldn't tell you for sure. One of those days isn't good at a school
Tuesday the
meeting. I'm not
28th?
sure. I'm not sure. I think it is. I don't think I can do Tuesday the 28th.
You got your calendar on you, Jim?
Yeah, I do.
Looking here, maybe he knows.
Good job.
If we're at
Yeah.
that point, should we put it off till our next meeting and then
Then
plan
decide,
something
yeah.
closer since we're already over 2 weeks out?
Yeah, we have a meeting on the 27th, the regular.
Yeah.
Is that too far?
At this point, I would say not.
Can't do it on the 5th of
No.
May, that's for sure.
I can't be here the month of May. I'm kidding.
Half the May's out for me.
Oh, that's true.
Well,
Unless I get
look at it on the 27th for that week.
Okay.
You won't be able to
Tomorrow,
drive?
pick me up.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Consensus items.
Yes, now that we've cleared that up.
That should have been the easy one.
Right. Some of the things we talked about were first responder service, and I guess basically just wanted to confirm where we are on these various topics. Where we left that, I think, is that there was going to be discussion with first responders group, Oscoda Township, and the county relative to extending the service contract with the first responders. And that discussion would be based on the proposal we talked about, where the two townships cooperatively would put an additional $4,000 into the contract. That would be contingent upon the first responders raising $4,000. And this is going to require some clarification from a mechanic standpoint, I think presumably in addition to what historically they've had in their budget. And that's part of the discussion we would need to have with them, I think. There are open questions regarding the EMS station and a desire to pursue rent reduction, the amount of space that's needed versus the amount of space we've talked about to date, which I believe has been one stall, and potential for accountability measures. So having said all that, there is a meeting scheduled tomorrow with Oscoda Township to go over these issues, and I would envision that then being followed up with discussions with the county, et cetera. At the same time, I would note that we did get a communication last week from the first responders indicating a desire to move ahead as soon as possible.
Okay, and I think you've all had a chance to read that item from the first responders. We're gonna, I think you maybe said this, but Bob and I are gonna meet with the supervisor and superintendent of Oscoda tomorrow afternoon early. And just kind of see where they're at, and I think that three of you, at least maybe four of you, kind of agree with my idea that this 4,000 should be a set figure, and if they can reach the 4, then we'll kick in an extra 4, rather than increments below 4,000. We've never really voted on that. We just talked about it at a work session. But Bob has also indicated that, do we mean 4,000? What is included in the 4? What is not? For instance, some of the stuff they get is automatic, like United Fund, right, contributions and so forth. So we're talking about new money here. At least that was my intent.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Just so everybody understands the deal. So, okay. Next item.
Next item is special assessment administrative fees, and we had talked about input from our attorney regarding a relative range, and I think where we wound up on the discussion was, let's take a look at what our actual baseline cost is to establish a district, including direct out-of-pocket expenses and administrative to some extent, and then revisit this topic. In terms of the Jordanville subdivision special assessment, I think the board indicated that if push came to the proverbial shove, we would be willing to extend the district duration from 2 to 3 years. We haven't confirmed that we would need to do it across the board, not for individual property owners, which was what we were supposing, I think, at the work session. I have spoken with the property owner representative who is circulating the petitions. She is here this evening if you have questions. My understanding is there is at least a desire from one property owner, a strong desire, that we go to 3 years, but that property owner is probably willing to support it at 2 years. So it becomes a value judgment on the board's part as to whether we would extend it for the entire project on that basis or not. But the petitions, I believe, are gonna be due at the road commission fairly soon.
And it's your information from talking to legal sources that if we go 3 years to one person, we have to offer 3 years to everybody.
That is the duration of the district, yes.
Okay, so Pat, you can kind of see where we're at. You know, if the Jordanville street paving is quite a project, it would be the biggest single paving project we've undertaken, at least in my time. And one person says, I will support it if you can give us 3 years to pay. And you maybe just heard Mr. Stalker say that legal sources say if you give one person 3 years to pay, you gotta give everybody. So it would take 3 years for us to get the township money back. That's a lot of bucks out of it, you know. So that's part of the rationale for some kind of administrative fee or something, but we haven't made that decision yet. We're just talking about it. So. Okay, we're still on apparent consensus items, and next is code enforcement.
Yes, there was some concern about the seasonal approach to structuring the code enforcement position, based, I think, on a lack of continuity being a potential result. And at least my perception was there was not total consensus on the direction we should go here. So what I had indicated in my report was that we hope to have some information available, and there is in fact a spreadsheet on the board table which demonstrates overtime historically going back to 2005, and then comparing the various costs of employing a code enforcement officer on a part-time basis to a part-time police officer to a full-time police officer. I note that the healthcare impact, which is found at the bottom of the full-time column there, is reversed. It should be 88, 90, and then 97 for the higher figure. What I had thought might be an appropriate course of action at this point would be to refer this to the work session, given the fact we're going to be talking about finances to some degree, and maybe having a financial overview would be helpful. The only challenge we have in that regard, frankly, is we're going to be getting some demand for code enforcement in the not too distant future. Not saying we can't wait 2 weeks, but with the weather breaking and so forth, the demand for service, if you will, is definitely going to ramp up.
Right. And then in 2 weeks, if we decide what we're gonna do here, then you have more time to go out and recruit for an additional police officer. Or would you appoint one of the existing officers to do this until we get another one?
Well, that would really be our only alternative in the short term, is to ask them to take it on.
What are these asterisk items on here?
That's the
ones who
Oh,
flip
for this
flop.
up here.
Yeah.
the varying impact of healthcare, yeah, and it's reversed, depending on type of coverage and the age and demographic category a particular employee falls into.
What's the feeling of the board as far, is this the route that you think we should go, or have we walked away from the idea of a seasonal college person? There's too many problems with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say we either go with either the part-time position or the full-time police officer, preferring a full-time police officer.
Didn't we say that we
I
just?
kind of looked at it as the police department in general, not one dedicated officer.
No,
Correct.
but maybe,
But
yeah.
adding the extra
Yeah.
officer to take up that workload.
Mhm.
And try and reduce some of this overtime.
Yeah.
Would that,
Definitely got to reduce the overtime. That's getting.
Because we've
That's
got
what we-
enough overtime for almost pay a full-time officer.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess this is part of the reason I thought a work session would be advisable. If you look back historically, even before, when we were at full staff, our overtime ranged between $25,000 and $43,000 there. So I would suggest it's not realistic to expect overtime to go away.
Correct.
So,
But this is a significant amount of overtime. The dollar figure alone tells me that's quite a burden on the workers themselves.
I'm thinking that the 12-hour shifts aren't working either. I think we're gonna have to go back to the old schedule and get another officer in there, if that's what it takes. I mean, that 2005 is palatable, but 2014 is ridiculous.
I would suggest that 2014 is probably somewhat of an anomaly, but it's clearly $55,000 to $60,000.
Or we need data to show what is causing this overtime.
Exactly.
And we are gathering that at this point, but it will take some time.
Maybe we can have it by our work session.
Yeah. If we extend it far enough.
Yeah.
Well, 2015's numbers.
Okay, no vote needed here. Everybody agree that we do have a consensus on these items? Anybody not agree? So Bob's estimate of consensus is good. Number 3, as the board knows, our labor attorney is no longer available to us. He has taken a different type of job. He does not work for a law firm anymore. I believe he works for the county of Oakland. Is that true?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
So we need a new labor attorney.
We do.
Tell us what the.
So, on that basis, we have solicited proposals for request for qualifications, which was included in the packet for labor and employment services. As Mr. Byer mentioned, Malcolm Brown is no longer in private practice, and we've received at this point 5 proposals, which are identified in attachment to my report. You might recall that the last time I went through a similar process when we were soliciting proposals for general counsel, the board opted to create a selection committee. The situation's a little bit different in that with labor and employment services, the interaction takes place more between staff and the attorney than with general counsel. But having said that, the impact of the advice and feedback we get from labor counsel can be significant in terms of the township's actions and the consequences that result from them. And that means the board needs to have a pretty high level of confidence, in my estimation, in the service provider. That observation would argue for the board having a direct role in the selection process. There's several different avenues we could go. The board could create a committee to review proposals with input from staff. The board could create a committee to conduct interviews once the proposals have been winnowed down. But I guess the primary question is, does the board feel it should have a role like we did when the general counsel process was followed? And if so, to what extent?
What is the wish of the board on this item?
I think it's important that we be a part of the process. I like the idea of the interview.
I think if nothing else, at least to sit in on the interview, have a
Mhm.
committee.
Okay, then I guess what I'm hearing is that we should go with the 3-person committee. Do we have people that would be interested in being on that committee?
I'll be on that committee.
I will too, but Jim.
2?
I
Anyone else?
can. I will.
Okay.
I sat on the last one.
Okay. All right, so we have a committee of 3 with Ms. McGuire, Mr. Gajewski, and Mr. Binkowski. I think we probably need a vote on that. We're doing the committee thing, and we've already established who is going to be on that committee. So I would move that we do make a motion that we set up a committee comprised of 3 township board members, which we've already done, with staff participation and input, and move ahead with all the steps that are needed in hiring a new labor attorney.
Support.
That's a very long.
I know. You don't have to write all of that, Jess.
I'm not.
Okay, we have a motion from Beyer.
Support.
And support, I believe, from Aaron. Did you say?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
yes.
Yeah.
Sure, whichever.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Roll call, please.
That's you again, Jess.
Train
Train me.
Yes.
Hinckley.
Yes.
Kayacki.
Yes.
Did he hear me over there?
Yeah.
Okay. Carrasco.
Yes.
Binkowski.
Yes.
Weed.
Yes.
And Beyer.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Fourth item is public safety cost recovery.
Yes, flowing out of a work session last fall was discussion about modifying our cost recovery ordinance to provide for more flexibility in recovering our cost and responding to fire emergencies. That led to development of a proposed draft ordinance by our township attorney, which I had presented to the board at a previous meeting, and at that point, it was requested that we gather information from other communities for comparative purposes to see what their ordinances look like and their practices. We've put together a summation and copies of the ordinances that you will note vary quite a bit. Unfortunately, I guess in summary, there does not appear to be clear guidance to be gotten from this sample survey. The practices vary widely between the communities. Based on that assumption, we also got information from the Michigan Township Association, which is attached in the form of an email communication, and a proposed ordinance that organization proffers to its members, and also circled back around and talked to our township attorney about the approach and format set forth in the amended proposed ordinance, and he remains comfortable with the approach that was set forth in that draft ordinance. So, having garnered that information, I'm bringing it back before the board to determine whether it is adequate to establish a direction at this point in terms of either maintaining the status quo or moving forward with an amendment to the ordinance. If we do that, we would need to put it in final form and then present it for adoption in the future.
Discussion or questions?
I think there's good points in several of the examples that combined, you know, some of the good stuff put in and some of the other stuff taken out, that could come up to something that works out very well. I would like to see data from more than just nearby municipalities.
Okay. We can expand the
I can put
search,
it on
if you will.
listserv if you want.
Mm.
We're talking about fire calls and what else?
I think vehicular accidents where there is fire. I think the underlying premise was that there is potential insurance recovery possible on certain types of vehicular accidents in most fire structures, or structural fires, I'm sorry, and that there is an opportunity there to recoup our costs that we're not taking advantage of.
I think we talked about this several years ago.
Mhm.
We did.
We all agreed then that we need to come up with some type of a cost recovery ordinance. I kinda like Tawas Cities. I mean, there's a little bit of tweaking, like Aaron said, but it's pretty close to. Maybe this is something we can get some more information, work on at the work session, put it on the last topic, and if we get to it, good, if not, we'll,
Yeah, put it last instead of first.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there a desire for more information? Obviously, trustee,
Yes.
we, okay.
Yes. Okay, last item for Bob is informational item, air header testing, request for proposals, bid results.
So we actually had a bid come in under $2,000, so there's no action necessary, but basically, a question was posed by a potential supplier of aeration equipment as to the integrity of the header, and there was concern about warranting any installation if there was not some certainty that that header didn't have an air leak somewhere, or several air leaks. So the engineer thought it would be in our best interest to provide that answer in advance before we actually solicited proposals. So we will be moving ahead. I think the bid was in the neighborhood of $1,700.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board on this before we move on?
Yeah, so this would just, to test the aeration that goes into the first part of the lagoon, is that what this is?
I think it's to test the headers feeding the lagoons, the aeration, feeding that aeration equipment.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob, for your report. Now, Bob,
On to Ann's.
don't leave your chair.
I know, no.
Bob is subbing tonight for our community development coordinator, who is attending a conference right now on behalf of trying to work on our downtown and businesses. So Bob's gonna handle Ann's report. And first action item deals with the spray pad.
Yes. We talked about this at the work session also, and Ann had provided a proposal from Miracle Midwest that differed a little bit from the original concept we talked about, in that it was not automated. There are mechanical features that require push-button type activity to activate, but they don't have electricity. They're operated individually. And the feedback from the board appeared to be positive, and I think what she's hoping for is to confirm that that view is positive this evening. She's going to be appearing before the Lions on April 23rd. If the board were willing to take a position and the Lions were comfortable with it, we could then move forward into the implementation phase and have the attorney prepare a contract agreement. So essentially the question is this something we would like to move forward on, contingent on the Lions endorsement of the plan and execution of a contract agreement.
Any discussion or questions here?
Nope, so moved.
Support.
Moved by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Hinckley that we do go ahead with the proposal provided by Miracle Midwest. And all of this is contingent on their Lions decision in their April 23rd meeting. Anything further? Okay, roll call, please.
Weed,
Yes.
Hinckley,
Yes.
Carrasco,
No.
Jankowski,
yes.
Gieske,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes, motion has passed. Next item involves a request from the organization known as Shelter, Inc.
Yes, Ann's office had been contacted by Shelter regarding community awareness relative to April being Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and they are seeking to display teal-colored bows in designated areas in the downtown, one of which is potentially on the Township Hall property. The bows, and I believe there's one there, it's right over on top of the, that is the color of the bow, in the corner of the room. They will have a tag identifying community candlelight vigil that's going to be held on April 23rd, and they would like to have them approval to display them throughout the month, but at a minimum through the April 23rd vigil. So what she's looking for is authorization to place, in cooperation with Shelter Inc., a bow or bows on the Township Hall property, probably on the south side. It's what we talked about earlier today.
Okay, thank you, Anton. Here we go. Any discussion or questions or concerns about this?
What's, are there legal issues concerning organizations doing this kind of thing on public property?
There can be. This is a temporary, assuming we're dealing with a nonprofit, which we could certainly verify, that's the assumption. I would think not, but we can certainly explore that question.
Yeah, I'm concerned if there's something in case law that might create a problem later. I mean, I don't have anything against Sexual Assault Awareness Month at all, but I am concerned if there is some sort of case law that could present a problem later on, if there are other organizations that come forward, want something done, and we've already done this one.
So you're gonna be able to check that out?
We can certainly do that, yes.
Because pretty soon half the month will
They'll be
gone.
over, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, can we make a motion and then say pending what a legal outcome is? Or, because if we wait till the next meeting, it is over.
Right.
Yeah.
So contingent on legal review?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And is that your motion?
Yeah.
Sure.
Support.
Okay, Ms. Carrasco motion and support from Mr. Wheat. Roll call, please.
Binkowski.
Yes.
Weed.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Hinckley.
Yes.
Gieske.
Yes.
Carrasco.
Yes.
And Meyer.
Yes, okay, final item, issue dealing with a tire grant.
Yes.
Information.
Wanted to make the board aware that the cooperative tire collection program, which is being undertaken with Oscoda Township in large part financed through an MDEQ grant, will be scheduled for May 9th, Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at McQuaig Park in Oscoda Township. And it's attached an informational flyer, and wanted the board to know also that representatives of the high school football team are volunteering their services to help with the collection, which my understanding, depending upon the volume of tires, it can be quite a physically involved process based on prior experience of the folks in Oscoda.
Bob, does this license cover their whole year for them, or is this just for, oh, I'm ahead of you, sorry.
Okay. Well, this sounds like a perfect fit for a football team. They could maybe lay them out and do the runs through them.
Right.
All right, next, we are at ordinances and resolutions, and we have two of them, one that's in your packet, one that we have moved to this section. And the first one is 2015-8. Bob?
Yes, in this particular resolution, I am going to request that the board set aside and table for the evening if that is acceptable.
Okay.
Need for some additional information.
All right. And the one that we added is the first item under other, the paperwork is. And this will, should we make this 2015-8 instead of the one?
No, make it 9.
Make it 9?
Yeah, because we're gonna use this, we're just gonna
Okay.
wait for the,
Okay, this is 2015-09. Bob or Jamie?
Actually, that's probably me.
Okay, go ahead.
What it is just a housekeeping thing with our different bank accounts. We have money markets with First Federal and different CDs and things like that. And when they come due or when we get statements, we kind of go through and take a look and make sure things are up to date. We got some things from First Federal that I need to take Lois's name off and put John's on, and we are also adding Bob Stocker's name. It is just in case that John or I aren't available to be the second signature. So it's just kind of a cleaning things up a little bit. So I need authorization from the board to proceed with the changes.
Okay.
And what number is this one?
2015-9.
9.
I move to go forward with 2015-9.
Support.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Weed with support from Mr. Hinckley that we do adopt resolution 2015-9. Roll call, please.
Weed,
Yes.
Kieski,
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Hinckley.
Yes.
Binkowski,
Yes.
Carrasco,
Yes?
and Byer.
Yes. Motion passed, resolution passed. Okay, we're under other, and the first item is the Oscoda Area Schools Hand in Hand Award for Kevin Smith, and we've had a little information on this. You care to add more?
Nothing really in addition to add, except I think it's noteworthy that our employees are being recognized by a governmental agency in our community for the good work they've done, and as I understand, on their own time and at their own initiative. So
It really doesn't matter, but I'm, just for my own sake, is this hand-in-hand award given to the Department of Public Works in general, or because on our paper it indicates one member of it, Kevin Smith? Do you?
Yeah, my understanding was to the whole department. They
Okay.
asked him there to accept it
Okay.
on behalf.
All right, thanks. And thank you for the award, and please pass it on to my former student, Scott. Okay. Next item is River Road repair quotations.
yes, on the board table, I provided the specifications that were distributed. You might recall that this was set aside last fall in the hope that we might get additional quotes in the spring. We actually have two here. The low bid is somewhat lower than the number we looked at last fall, and that is $6,400 from John Henry Excavating. A suggestion was made prior to the meeting by one of the board members that we might look at a repair on F-41, asked the contractor to take a look at that when this work is scheduled, and certainly we can do that.
I believe there's also a small hole over here by the Dairy Queen, isn't there, that they can, if they were paving, they may want to look at. There's a rather small one in the westbound lane,
River Road.
River Road.
Okay.
Please have
Do
them
they
look at
realize
it.
that there's two problems in River Road? We may need a whole new rebidding.
I'll move we go ahead with John Henry and have him also take a look at the other two spots.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Binkowski, support from Mr. Hinckley that we do go ahead with the John Henry bid, $6,400. Further discussion? Anything else? Roll call, please.
Hinckley,
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Kieski.
Yes.
Binkowski.
Yes.
Carrasco,
Yes?
Weed,
Yes.
and Byer.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item is the library roof replacement bidding process.
Yes, our library director put together some specifications, which I have here. They're patterned after those that we've been using for many years for replacement of the roof on the library. We had several bids, as detailed in the communication from Ms. London. The apparent low responsive bidder is Universal Roofing at a cost of $22,600. And Diane is recommending that the board consider accepting that bid. If that is in fact the direction you choose to go, I would suggest making that subject to development and execution of a contract agreement. I note that we have had experience with this particular contractor in the past, which has been positive.
Do you have any information on this GAF product?
I believe they've installed that in the past for us. I can
I
confirm
might
that.
have it on the roof of
I
this,
think it is on the
actually.
roof here.
I think we have that same product on the roof here.
Have we ever replaced the roof out there at the library? Or patched it or anything? Or is
Not
this
that
the
I
first
recall.
time?
If I may, Jamie, no, the answer is no, there's been some patches, and the GAF product is on the Army Medical Facility.
Okay.
I make a motion to go forward with Universal Roofing using the GAF product for $22,600.
Support. Anybody have any feelings about the Duralast product? I'm assuming from your comments that the GAF is a adequate quality product. How about Duralast? Anybody have
We
any?
got the same 15-year warranty on it,
Okay.
so it's a good product. I've seen it
Yeah.
used before.
What do we have on the roof of the community center, do you know?
I don't know offhand.
Okay.
A hole.
Is the library leaking anywhere now, or it is? Oh. So you're not just anticipating
No.
down the line?
Although it is 30 years old almost.
Yeah. Okay. So we've had it for 22 years, and it's the original roofing as far as you know. Okay. I think we're ready for roll call.
Weed,
Yes.
Hinckley.
Yes.
Carrasco,
Yes?
Pinkowski.
Yes.
Gieske,
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes. Motion carried. All right, and we've.
Jim,
Yeah.
when are they gonna start this? Do you have any idea?
As soon as the contract.
As soon as the contract?
Skated, I give them till June 30th to have it completed.
Before the rainy season, so.
Okay. Well, we've added a Little League item.
Yes, it's the annual operating agreement with Little League. Begins April 15th, thus the urgency, and ends July 1st. The conditions are consistent with those we've had in the past. It's been executed by a Little League representative, and as you might imagine, they're somewhat eager to get out and start using the fields.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the operating agreement.
Support.
Okay, motion by McGuire. Support by Pinkowski. Okay. Roll call, please.
Pinkowski,
Yes.
Weed,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Hinckley.
Yes.
Gieske.
Yes.
Carrasco.
Yes?
Meyer.
Yes. Motion is passed. We are to the second public comment. Is there anybody wishes to speak or tell? Yeah. You have to get up again.
Are you kidding?
No, because he'll come out there and thump you if you don't.
You don't,
JD.
JD, he'll just
you don't see
whack you.
what's going on behind you.
It's just a question. When we were talking about the different types of assessments, and you kept referring to road repairs, and they can be 2 years, to be paid back, or however that works. With the weed assessment, it was always done, we paid forward. So everything was already paid up right then and there. I don't know if that system is going to change or why it should. But even if it did, and the township advanced money up to a certain amount for the weed control, it would be paid back that same year, I believe, or the next tax bill. So there wouldn't be any extended period to have that money out. I still think that we were doing pretty good the way we were with paying in advance, so.
Okay.
So that's, like I said, I can understand when you're talking about roads, it's a whole different ballgame, and this assessment is, it just operates a little differently. Okay, that's it.
Thank you again, Pat.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, board comments. Yes.
Me, just a reminder, May 5th, election. You can call our office, visit our office, get an absentee ballot sent to you. Just give us a call, 739-4971, or stop in Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
And registering to vote is passed?
It is
Yeah.
passed. You can register to vote, but just not for this upcoming election. That is passed.
Okay.
But you can register for any upcoming other than that one.
And absentee ballots, as you said, are available at your
Yes,
office?
they are.
Clerk's office?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you do not have to walk in to get them. We had a question about that today. I said, nope, all you gotta do is give us a call, we'll mail you the application, you get it back to us, we mail you the ballot. You sit in front of your TV and do the whole thing.
Chris, can people come in and look at the ballot just to see what's on there?
Oh,
To
sure, we
read
have
it
sample
over?
ballots. Yes, we have sample ballots. They can even take them home with them if they.
People might wanna do that, cause I
Yep.
know there's a few on there.
Yep, or we
to
can
read
make
them over.
copies of them, yep.
Would you mail sample ballots out to people?
We never have, but I suppose we could.
Okay.
We don't have an abundance of them, so probably what I would do if they wanted them mailed, I would make paper copies. Probably be a little
Yeah.
easier to mail that way too, because they're that bulky.
All right. Any other board members have a comment? Okay. 10 after 8, 11 after 8, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Okay, we are adjourned.
My spot.